I would like to call to order the January 22nd, 2019 Cabarrus County Board of Commissioners regular meeting. Welcome, everyone. It's good to have you with us tonight. We are very happy to have with us tonight the Girl Scout Troop 3561 from Westford United Methodist Church for our presentation of colors.
Color guards advance. Prepare to post the colors. Post the colors. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Color guards return to posts.
Thank you very much. After our invocation, we'll ask all of you to come back up to the podium and we'll have a pin for you. We're very happy to have with us tonight Pastor Andy Langford, who is sporting the title retired before his name, from Central United Methodist Church. Welcome. We appreciate you being here tonight.
Thank you, sir. I just want to say it's an honor to be here because you represent the best of this county. You serve faithfully. It's not about you, it's about our common good. And I was looking at your mission statement, which would be so much better if everybody would just do this. Visionary leadership, not reactive. Good stewardship, administer state requirements, ensure public safety, determine county needs, and provide services that continually enhance quality of life. You do that. And I just want to say thank you. Let's pray. Almighty and holy God, you have set us in a beautiful land, in a community of people who care for one another. You have blessed us with resources and talents. You have allowed us to choose leaders who serve all of us, who work with competent staff throughout this county, who serve to make this a place of justice and quality. That doesn't just happen. You have blessed us, but you call forth stewards to use those blessings for the common good. So bless these commissioners this night, the staff who work with them, and all the people in this community. And we offer this prayer in the name of the Creator and Sustainer and Redeemer of all of us. Amen.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you being with us, and thank you for those kind words. I'll now ask our Girl Scout Troop 3561 to come forward and come to the podium and tell us your name and and tell us what you enjoy about scouting. And then when you leave, to my right, your left, Commissioner Honeycutt will have a pin for you. And we asked you to please speak into the microphone so that the folks on television can hear you as well.
Hi, my name is Christy Smith.
And Kaylee King.
And my favorite thing about Girl Scouts is camping.
Doing snack.
Great, thank you.
My name is Emily Johnson, and my favorite part of Girl Scouts is archery.
Thank you.
My name is Elena Johnson, and my favorite part about Girl Scouts is camping and selling Girl Scout cookies.
Great, thank you.
Hello, my name is Journey, and my favorite thing about Girl Scouts is traveling.
Thank you.
My name's Kimberly Lisk, and my favorite thing about Girl Scouts is camping.
Thank you.
My name's Peyton Ward, and my favorite thing about Girl Scout is camping.
My name is Gabby Clinton, and my favorite thing about Girl Scouts is camping.
My name is Amy Bartels, and my favorite thing about Girl Scouts is also camping.
My name is Julia Bartels, and my favorite thing about Girl Scouts is camping.
Great. Well, we appreciate you all being here. I think we've learned that camping is definitely the ticket. It means a lot for us for you to be here to do that for us. First up on our agenda is approval or corrections of the minutes, and you all have copies of those before you. Do I hear a motion to approve or correct the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the minutes as presented. Is there discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. That motion passes. Next up is approval of the agenda, which you have before you as well. Do I hear a motion that we approve the agenda as presented?
Move for approval.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? I will add that there are a few changes to the agenda that are included on the sheet attached to it as well. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. That motion passes. I would also like to welcome our Youth Commissioner, Luke Linkle, who is with us tonight from Northwest Cabarrus High School, I think. Great. Good to have you with us tonight. Next up, we have recognitions and presentations, and we do have a proclamation for Black History Month, which I will read to you now. And this is Black History Month proclamation. Whereas Black History Month is the observance of a special period to recognize the achievements and contributions of African Americans to our county, state, and nation, and whereas this observance presents the special opportunity to become more knowledgeable about Black heritage and to honor the many Black leaders who have played a part in the progress of our county. And whereas such knowledge can strengthen the insight of all citizens regarding the issues of human rights, the great strides that have been made in the crusade to eliminate the barriers of equality for minority groups, and the continuing struggle against racial discrimination and poverty. And whereas, as a result of their determination, hard work, intelligence, and perseverance, African Americans have achieved exceptional success in all aspects of society, including business, education, politics, science, athletic, and the arts. And now therefore be it proclaimed that the Board of Commissioners for Cabarrus County, North Carolina, do hereby proclaim February 2019 as Black History Month and encourage all citizens to participate in the educational and celebratory events honoring the contributions and accomplishments of African Americans. Do I hear a motion to approve this proclamation?
So moved. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. And that motion passes. And we move to item D, which is informal public comments. I do not have any yellow cards that were presented tonight. If there is anyone that would like to speak, you may come to the podium at this time. Seeing no one, we will move to our consent agenda. Items on our consent agenda, which you all have before you, and for the benefit of the public, these are all items that were discussed at our work session 2 weeks ago. Do I hear a motion that we approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. That motion passes, and we move to new business. First item in new business is from the Department of Human Services, excuse me, and that's our Transportation 5307 grant. And I'm glad to have Bob Bushy from our Transportation Department here to talk about that.
Good evening, everyone. It's my pleasure to come before you this evening with our 5307 Federal Urban Grant. Our vehicles have Motorola radios in them, and they have all met their useful life. So when they stop working, they cannot be replaced or repaired. So we are applying to the federal government to replace those radios. The total grant amount is $41,188 with a 20% local match, $8,238. To apply for this grant does require a public hearing, and then we ask that you accept the grant and adopt the associated resolutions.
Great. Any questions for Mr. Bushy? Okay. Thank you. So at this time, I will open the public hearing regarding our Transportation 5307 grant and invite anyone that would like to speak on this matter to the podium at this time. Okay, seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing. And commissioners, do I hear a motion to approve the application and associated amendments, budget amendments?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion that we approve an application for unspent 5307 funds, related resolutions, and authorize the budget officer to prepare the appropriate budget amendment.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. And that motion passes. Thank you. Okay, next up is economic development investment for project safety. And we are happy to have Paige Castrodale to talk to us about that.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to present this project information. Safeways, which we've discussed as project safety, is operating out of 3 buildings in Concord, and they are currently considering consolidating their operation and relocating to 225 Wilshire Avenue in Concord. They manufacture fall safety equipment and have been in Cabarrus County for almost 25 years. This move would allow them to expand their operation and add 36 new jobs with average wages that are above the current county average wage. We're asking for you to consider a 5-year, 85% economic development grant based on the estimated investment of $1.5 million. The grant amount from Cabarrus County would be $45,900, and net revenue to the county during that same time period would be $8,100. We're happy to answer any questions.
Okay, any questions for Paige? Okay, this does call for a public hearing as well, so at this time I will open the public hearing and invite anyone to the podium that would like to speak on this economic development investment grant. Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing. And what would be your pleasure on this one, commissioners?
I'll move for approval, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, and that motion will, correct me if I'm wrong, that's a motion to approve an economic development agreement for 5 years at 85% between Project Safety. The name of the company is Safeway. And Cabarrus County, and authorize the county manager to execute the agreement on behalf of the board, subject to review or revision by the county attorney. And you second that. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there discussion? I will say it's always great to have a local company And we hear that a lot of times because a lot of the economic development projects that we talk about are new people that we're encouraging into the community, but a lot of the work that Paige and the staff at Economic Development does on a daily basis is dealing with our existing industries and finding out ways that we can support them and help them grow. And I think this is a good example of that. So thank you for your work. Okay, any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. That motion passes. Thank you. Okay, next up from Finance, presentation of the fiscal year 2018 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report. And we are happy to have Susan Fearington to talk with us.
Hey, good evening. This evening I want to present to you the 2018 fiscal year Comprehensive Annual Financial Report. We call that the CAFR for short. If approved tonight, the CAFR will be available on the county's website tomorrow for everyone's viewing. The document is prepared with great precision and involves a long process with the help of the majority of the Finance Department. At this time, I want to thank Suzanne Burgess, our Assistant Finance Director, the County Manager's Office, and the entire Finance Department staff. Without their help, the audit and the CAFR preparation would not be possible. Management is responsible for the preparation, the fair presentation of the financial statements in accordance with the accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. After the CAFR is prepared, the county is reviewed by the auditors and then submitted to the Local Government Commission for their approval. The CAFR was submitted this year to the LGC, which is Local Government Commission, on December 5th and was approved on January 10th. The county also submits the CAFR for the Government Finance Officers Association Certification of Achievement of Excellence in Financial Reporting each year. The 2017 CAFR was the 33rd consecutive year that we received this award. And we have submitted the FY 2018 for consideration for the award again. You have a handout in front of you with my presentation, and on page 1 of the handout, you'll find a letter, and it's from the independent auditor's report. This letter basically states that the county has an unmodified opinion on our financial statement, which is the best opinion to receive. The letter also stated that there were no financial statement findings. The second letter is the responsibility letter, and that begins on page 4 of your handout. This letter makes sure that the reader knows that the management is responsible for the selection and use of appropriate accounting policies. It also explains the accounting estimates and any other issues that might arise during the audit. There were no issues noted. The third and fourth letters, which begin on page 6 in your handout, are the auditor's report of compliance and our federal grants on page 6 and our state grants, which begin on page 8 for your reference. No material weaknesses or significant deficiencies were noted with our 2018 audit. The next pages of your presentations for your reference. On page 10, you will find our general fund balance sheet. And on page 11, the statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance. The general fund is our main operating fund, so that's the one I wanted to highlight tonight. I'm not going to go through each item. It's there for your reference. However, at a later time, I can be available if you have more detailed questions. The items that most people are usually interested in is what is our fund balance and how much of it can we spend on our priority projects. So on the next page, which is page 12, you'll find some of the highlights of the FY18 fund balance that I have included for your reference, and I'll go through some of those in a little bit more detail. So everybody's on page 12 of the handout. So for FY18, our total revenues were under expenditures by $1.4 million. Revenues were 2.7 over amended budgets, and expenditures were $13 million under amended budget. However, we show a negative change in our fund balance, which could be misleading. We had a fund balance transfer, if you recall, last year at this time of $10 million that we were transferred to our capital reserve fund for one-time projects. That has to be ran through our books. So that $10 million goes through the books, and that's why it contributed to our revenues being under our expenditures. Each year, like I said, during the audit presentation, the fund balance in excess of our 15% fund balance policy If approved by the board, we can move that money to our capital reserve fund for non-operating projects. So some of the ones I wanted to highlight that we were able to transfer and use the money last year, with the $10 million that we transferred last year, were the courthouse architect for $5 million. We put in government center chiller for $211,000. We had a radio Ethernet project, which was $500,000. Arena lighting, $235,000. And then our West Cabarrus High School, we had $782,250. That was for contingency, startup, and technology for that school. We bought 10 school buses. And then at our Hickory Ridge Elementary School, we allocated $2.4 million for construction owner, technology, contingency, and our furniture and equipment that we'll be purchasing to equip that school. I wanted to point out that the biggest areas where revenues were over budget were in the areas of property tax. We've had property tax come in over budget of $2.5 million, and our building inspection fees were a little bit over $1 million. Property tax collection rate did slightly decrease from the prior year of 99.05, and it went to 98.92. FY17, however, had our reval in there. There were still increases, though, in our total ad valorem taxes. The values went up due to new construction and real estate improvements. So the valuation the valuation at June 30th of 17 was $21.5 billion, and at June 30th of 18, it was $22.3. So our values are still continuing to go up. Our local option sales tax decreased 0.3%. During FY18, we experienced some rather larger than normal sales tax refunds that seems to fluctuate from year to year. So last year, 10.5% of our collections were actually paid back in refunds for larger nonprofits and people who are asking for refunds that are eligible for them. That was compared to 8.1% the previous year, so it did increase last year. Our expenditures were under budget by $13.3 million. Some of the underspent $1 million related to expenditures that were reappropriated back into our 2019 budget for uncompleted projects. And county departments were conservative in their spending, resulting in an additional $12.2 million in savings. One of the largest areas of savings was in our human service area, where it was $4.3 million under budget due to reduced expenditures in administration, transportation, economic services, and child welfare. Another large area for the county was salary and fringe benefits of $2.8, which were under budget. This was due to unfilled positions and turnover. The next page, page 13, is the fund balance calculation of the excess of their 15% policy. Please note that our ending fund balance of $84 million that is the total. However, that's not the amount that we can transfer over to our capital reserve. Of this amount, a reduction must be made for non-spendables, restrictions, and commitments of $26 million. We have assignments of fund balance of $6.2 million, and then our county's reserve for the 15% policy is $38.6. So after taking all that into consideration, and 5 budget revisions that we've done since June 30th, we had to dip into, it's been approved by the different board meetings in September and November. The bottom line is that we have $12.3 million to transfer to our capital reserve fund for one-time projects. So, and that was compared to last year of 10.3. So this year we're transferring 12.3, and 10.3 was last year. Are there questions? I know that was fast, but it is sort of for your reference, and if you had questions later too, I'll be available.
On the sales tax refunds, what's the timeline on that? Like, how long can they come back? Is it got to be completed each year if they're going to request it, or how does that work?
Some of the nonprofits, they'll be like they can ask for the reimbursement twice a year, and other ones are annual. Like Cabarrus County asks for ours once a year. However, we can be subject to 3 years PAC. If they're audited and they find that they're due more sales tax, then they can go back 3 years and ask for a refund. So, but some of our larger ones, we have no indication of when it's going to hit. It's when they apply to the state for the refund, and if the state's holding the refunds, then it could be a couple months. So we might go have a good 8 months, and then all of a sudden we're hit with a refund, or it could be more timely, like every 6 months. So in a year that maybe perhaps we would get 3 refunds for a person that usually files twice a year, and then the next year we only get hit one time. that makes our sales tax fluctuate so much. Does that answer the question?
It makes it very difficult to forecast and budget accordingly, because you never know which year. Susan and her staff spend a lot of hours trying to figure out, is there a trend, is there a pattern, and it doesn't seem to be a pattern.
A couple times I thought every other year is a good year. You don't want to go on that basis, but that does seem to be their pattern, so.
That is a conversation we've had with our state representatives over the years as well, as how much easier it would be if they just didn't charge those exempt organization sales tax to start with, and then we would, what we got, we knew we were due, and I think there's some issue with the amount of float that occurs for the state in that process that they're very reluctant to give up.
Even with the county, it would be nice if we didn't have to pay sales. And a lot of people think that we're sales tax exempt, and we're not. We pay sales tax, and then we have to ask for reimbursement once a year. Right. So sales tax, sometimes we would pay in July one year. We're not asked to be able to get reimbursed for it till the next December. So it's like 18 months later, we're asking for reimbursement for something that could be, from the previous fiscal year. So makes it difficult. So
somebody gets to hold that money and use it for a very long period of time without any interest.
It's not us.
Yes, it's not us.
And at this time, I would like, if there's no other questions right now, at this time, I'd like to introduce C.J. Palmer. He's our senior manager with our accounting firm, Elliott Davis, for a couple words, and then I'll come back for that one.
Chairman Morris, members of the Board of Commissioners, Mr. Downs, thank you for allowing us to perform the county's audit services this year. Also wanted to thank the finance team, Susan, Suzanne, and the rest of those folks, in making it a good process again this year. I'll just want to speak briefly about the process, go over our reports a little bit. I know Susan covered most of those, but I'll retouch on them briefly. Some upcoming standards and those items. The audit process began in spring of last year. Our audit was focused on the basic financial statements and the federal and state awards. Again, as Susan mentioned, that's our opinion, and that's what we provide on those financial statements. Our audit was completed under the concept of materiality, again, in accordance with AICPA and governmental accounting guidelines. That concept of materiality is the amount that would influence a user of the financial statement's conclusions on the financial statements, and it includes qualitative and quantitative factors. As a result of our audit, we proposed no journal entries, and we passed on no audit adjustments as a result of our procedures. We also had no significant disagreements with management or unexpected difficulties encountered in performing the engagement. We're not aware that management used other outside accounting consultants or anything like that. As Susan mentioned before, we provided an unmodified opinion, which is also known as a clean opinion. Also, as she mentioned, that report on page 17 of the document goes over management's responsibilities to prepare the financial statements and our responsibilities to audit those financial statements. We did include in there a matter of emphasis for the restatement for the implementation of GASB 75. That was approximately $25 million, and that's for additional amounts reported for other post-employment benefits, but that was as a result of Governmental Accounting Standards Board's requirements on that. It wasn't really anything that the county did wrong or anything. It was just a restatement in accordance with those requirements. She also mentioned the other reports, the report on internal controls over financial reporting and our test of compliance. Within the document, that's page 172. The purpose of that report is to describe our procedures with respect to internal controls. It was not an audit of internal controls, but if we'd found issues with compliance or material weaknesses or significant deficiencies, that's where we would mention those items. The reports on compliance with major federal and state programs. The purpose of those reports is to form an opinion on major programs, which is a subset of all the federal and state awards the county and to determine if those programs were administered in accordance with federal and state guidelines. As a result of our procedures, we noted no instances of noncompliance related to federal or state major programs. Summaries of all those reports is at page 178 of the document, so if you have a question or want to look back in that, that's where that would be found. As far as upcoming standards, GASB 87 relating to leases will be effective for June 30th, 2021 year end. That was issued by GASB in June of 2017. Essentially what that'll do is it'll require all leases to have capital lease treatment. On the statement of net position, it won't require a change in the fund financial statements. So those front couple of statements will look a little different in a couple of years. And that's going to be retroactive application. Again, this won't be effective for a couple of years, but right now the county should be ensuring they have an adequate inventory of those leases. The Government Accounting Standards Board is also contemplating some changes to the financial reporting model. It's an exposure draft, so there's no changes implemented right now. Just in a couple of years, the financial statements may look a little bit different as well. So I wanted to alert you guys to that. In closing, I wanted to thank you guys again for the opportunity to provide audit services to the county, and thank again the finance team. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to take. I know I went through it kind of quickly, and these are kind of complex reports. But
any questions for Mr. Palmer? We appreciate you being with us tonight.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Okay, again, I'd like to take the opportunity to thank Suzanne Burgess, our Assistant Finance Director, and the County Manager's Office and entire Finance Department staff for their assistance in completing the audit and the CAFR. It takes a lot of months of our time, and we're working in 2 different years, so it's a huge feat for our, we always know it's audit time, and so it's a crunch time for us, so we appreciate everything. So the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report for June 30th of 2018, the 15% fund balance policy budget amendment, and the related project ordinance are submitted to you for approval.
Great. Thank you. Any questions for Susan?
Not a question, but a comment, but thank you very much for all your hard work and everybody that's involved, because it's, as you just told us, 2 different years and there's a lot to it, and I'm not sure there's, I probably don't understand the full breadth of how much time it takes, but I know that you've worked very hard on it, and I really appreciate it, so thank you.
Thanks so much. I'll pass that along to my department, too.
Great. Ditto.
Thank you.
Okay, you have heard the report, and you have the printed copy before you. Do I hear a motion to accept the fiscal year 2018 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report as presented, and to approve the related budget amendment and capital reserve project ordinance?
So moved. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, no, and that motion passes. Thank you again for all your hard work in your department. Now we move to item G4 from Infrastructure and Asset Management, Midland Branch Library Agreement. We are happy to have Kyle Billifer to talk with us about that.
In the last work session on January 7th, Infrastructure and Asset Management, we presented the lease agreement, the sublease agreement in our memorandum of understanding with the town of Midland for the Midland Branch Library. 2 days after that meeting, I received an email from Town of Midland, Town Manager Doug Paris, saying his council had reviewed it after our meeting and their attorney wanted some additional verbiage and changes in there. And then on the 16th, I actually received what the changes were, and most of them are a combination of paragraphs, trimming it down. They clarified some addresses of the actual building, and then they combined some facility responsibilities. The largest change that I think the board needs to hear would be under terms under Section 6, and I'm going to read that tonight. and that can be found on page 2 of the agreement, which I believe is attached to the agenda item. The library facility will be operated pursuant to the general policies of the county. The library facility shall be staffed and operated a minimum of 3 days per week from the hours of 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. The county may expand the number of days open per week as county staff deems necessary to provide the appropriate level of service based on the volume of activity at the facility. The county may reduce the number of hours based on a system-wide reduction in library services or because of inclement weather. Any increase or decrease in the hours of operation shall be determined by the Board of Commissioners. That is what our attorney took with their changes that they put in there. And in discussion with the town manager via email, their town attorney stated that the hours should be clarified so that they were not reduced later on. And that was what the town was concerned about. So our attorney took their changes, we've revised them, and basically put that agreement in front of you tonight for signature, and then I will hand deliver that to the town of Midland for their council signature in February. And they've agreed via email to those changes that we made to the changes they made. So this has been going on for some time, but I thought that I would point out what that clarification was, is they wanted those hours listed, and then our attorney wanted to put in there that those could be reduced based on board decision. And that is different than the first agreement that I put in front of you in the beginning of January.
Okay, questions for Mr. Billifer?
Let's put this in final form.
Yes, as soon as our chairman signs it, I will carry it down there, and next month their city council will sign off on it. Mind you, that will be after we start having a conditional permit and start putting in our furniture and things like that, but not before I think we would be actually operating out of that space based on their town meeting schedule.
Okay, very good. Okay, if there are no other questions, then I would entertain a motion to approve the agreement between Cabarrus County and the town of Midland for the Midland Branch Library, and authorize the chair of the Board of Commissioners to execute the agreement on behalf of Cabarrus County, subject to review or revisions by the county attorney.
I'll move for approval.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. That motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We've been talking about this for quite a few years, so it certainly will be exciting to get that facility open and up and running, which will be very soon now. And we move now to appointments to boards and committees. First, we have Active Living and Parks Commission. The terms for Active Living and Parks Commission members: Michael Speck, at large, Chris Furr, Midland, and Megan Bumgardner, Northwest Cabarrus, expire January 31st, 2019. All are eligible and willing to serve another term. The Active Living and Parks Commission voted unanimously to recommend the board's consideration for reappointment for all three members. Ms. Bumgardner also serves on the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council. An exception to the service on multiple boards provision of the appointment policy will be needed for her. So at this time, I would entertain a motion to reappoint Michael Speck, Chris Furr, and Megan Bumgardner to the Active Living and Parks Commission for 3-year terms ending January 31st, 2022, including an exception to the service on multiple boards provision of the appointment policy for Ms. Bumgardner. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. That motion passes. And we move to appointments to the Cabarrus County Youth Commission. The following students are recommended to be appointed to the Cabarrus County Youth Commission. A letter in regards to the Youth Commission's recommendation is included in the agenda. Those three students are Tisha Abdul from Cox Mill High School, Wesley Barnes from Hickory Ridge High School, and Gabriella Pera from Mount Pleasant High School. So at this time, I would entertain a motion to appoint Tisha Abdul, Wesley Barnes, and Gabriella Pera to the Cabarrus County Youth Commission for 2-year terms ending June 30th, 2020.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Is there discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. That motion passes. We now move to reports. And at this time, we'll receive updates from commission members who serve as liaisons to municipalities or on various boards or committees. Does anybody have updates? Yes, ma'am.
I serve as a liaison to the Department of Human Services, and in talking with Karen Calhoun, she asked that I make this announcement, and that is that the federal shutdown, if it does not end soon, will have an impact on recipients of the Food and Nutrition Program. The February food stamp benefits were issued early on January the 20th in order to anticipate no benefits being issued for March because of the shutdown. So they're encouraging recipients, to be mindful of that and to try to budget and stretch those benefits as long as possible. The Department of Human Services will continue to take and process applications using the normal process until instructed to do otherwise by the North Carolina DHHS and the USDA. They'll also be holding a food drive in February to help support the Cooperative Christian Food Pantry. So I just wanted to make people aware of that.
Thank you. Okay, any other updates or reports?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, as the liaison to the Youth Commission, which is part of the 4-H Club, the 4-H calendar is now public and can be viewed at cabarrus.ces.ncsu.edu. So that would be the 4-H calendar for any of the high school youth that would like to see what's going on and access that. And would our youth commissioner like to add anything to that? Okay.
No. Great, thank you. Okay, any other updates? Okay, then we'll mention that we do have a number of vacancies on various boards and committees that are available to be filled. You can find those on our Cabarrus County website, or you may call our clerk in the county manager's office, and she'll be glad to assist you with that. But we always have a pretty substantial list of openings, and we encourage people to apply. There are a number of other reports that are attached to your agenda, and we move now to general comments by board members, if anybody has anything they would like to comment on.
Other quick item, just congratulations, I think, to Morrisburg Architects on the completion of the PLC, the new building. It was a fabulous facility, and we went to the grand opening. And so the architect and the school staff and the Lyles Construction, who's a local GC, was the GC on the project, and they just did a tremendous job. And I'm sure the students and staff are quite excited about the future at that building.
Great. Thank you. I was quite impressed with the number of people that turned out for the dedication as well. There was quite a big crowd there. So they're very enthusiastic about those new quarters. Okay, any other comments? Luke, we're glad to have you with us tonight. If you have anything you'd like to share, you're welcome to do so. We're not putting you on the spot, but we didn't notify you in advance. Thank you for being with us. We do have need of a closed session tonight, so at this time I would entertain a motion to go into closed session to discuss pending litigation, economic development pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11 A, 3, and 4. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. We are now in closed session. Thank you.